All right, my name is Miguel. I'm 37. I'm a grateful recovering addict. I've been in recovery for a little under 2 years now. I grew up in California. My family is Hispanic. We aren't your traditional Hispanic family though, where it was, from Mexico. We've been in California for many generations. Um, I grew up in a church. Did First Communion, baptism, confirmation, um, all of it. It's a Catholic church, and I grew up feeling that there was something more than what I was seeing. There was something lacking. There was something more involved with the church than what I was getting. But I did what I was, told, and to the best of my ability. Coming to my teenage years, parents were separated, then divorced. I lived with my dad. Moved away from my comfort zone where I grew up and went to a separate town about 2 hours away from where I grew up, and um, sort of took on my own identity. I started selling weed. I had already been drinking a little bit before that, and as well as smoking weed. Um, got into some bad crowds, and before you knew it, school was over, and my dad had kicked me out, left me on the side of the highway, and said, "You're on your own." We got into a car fight, or into a fight in the car, and he left me on my own. So I started doing whatever I could to get by. Now I did get jobs. I was a regular worker, always had a job, but never really maintained them. I get bored. Wasn't enough money. I ended up stealing. Ended up getting charged with 3 counts of burglary at Target. I stole iPods, PSPs, Nintendo DSs, and ended up getting caught. I ended up fessing up myself. It's just something, my guilt overran me and ended up turning myself in. Till the age of 25, I was out drinking a lot. I was doing what I wanted to do, um, maintaining a job. I was working as a waiter, driving for delivery, and just getting by. I had an apartment with a couple friends, and then I met a woman that is now my wife, and she was a Christian. And at that same time, I had met a couple men while working a job that were Christians. These two men came to my work, and we were talking about sports. I worked at a sports shop, and um, they started talking about Christ, and sort of had me hook, line, and sinker right away because I knew of God. I didn't have a relationship with Him, and I knew that there was something more. I'd already been searching my life, but not. I would say I wasn't looking constantly. There was just something in me that was saying there's something more to this. So I came to Christ with those two men, and they taught me. They introduced me to a church, and then with my wife growing up in the church, it was sort of like all of it met at once. It was pretty interesting how it all worked out. Things started changing. I didn't know at the time that God was changing it. I thought I was changing it. I thought I was making changes and things were getting better. And an opportunity came to me to go to a line school. And I went into the line school, which is now my job. It's I'm a lineman. Um, and I was giving it to God at the time. I was like, I'm doing this in your name. I want to go into this field, carry your name, and be with you, and have you be with me and spread this light over other men. I ended up getting a great job at Pico, or at the time I thought it was a great job. Financially, it was. Spiritually and family wise, it was not. It took me away from home a lot. Stressed out all the time because my phone was always ringing to come in and work. Always tired. And, no relationship with the family. Actually, right when I found that job, my dad had been diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 colon cancer. And me and my dad had rebonded our relationship and grew together. And so then after a year, of being with Pico, my dad had finally passed away. Um, it took a lot out of me. I ended up having to go back to California, handle a lot of these, what you normally have to handle when somebody passes away. My brother was stressed out because he had to deal with a lot of it. He was living with my dad, and the poor guy had to deal with the brutality of his sickness and cleaning up after him, and I feel bad, and I felt bad because I wasn't there to help. So it took a lot out of me. And while I was there, I ended up um, using cocaine, and I had used before through my early 20s. It was just, for me, it was just a party drug and once in a great while. But when I was there, it took hold of me, and I didn't realize it. I was trying to feel better, and I told myself it was making me feel better. It was helping me get through what I needed to get through. And then when I came home, um, I came back to work and ended up breaking my ankle. Um, Broke my ankle severely where I was out for 2 years. It was a 2 year recovery. Doctor told me I was probably going to have a limp and might not go back to my job. So I was depressed, angry, upset, you name it, that's what I was feeling, and I didn't know how to handle all these emotions. And the cocaine use became a lot heavier, especially because I wasn't at work. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was at home 24/7, really couldn't move. And the drinking got heavier and heavier and heavier. I had been drinking since I was 17 and off and on blackouts, and in complete denial about being an alcoholic. I got a call from work saying, "Oh, we're going to bring you back. You need to come in and do a pee test." I peed dirty. Went back to another outpatient, and once again did well enough to get back to work. Um, my wife ended up finding out that I was using, kicked me out, and I was living with my mom. My mom had moved out here to Delaware to be with the grandchildren, and was with her and still using. Stole $1,400 from my own account. You know, came to the point where I was crying while using, telling myself, "Why am I doing this? I don't want to be doing this anymore. God, please help me." And got on a call with outpatient and told them I need to go somewhere. I can't do this anymore. And I was sent to a recovery center. There, my first day, I walked in very nervous, thinking it was going to be like, county jail. Didn't know what to expect, sort of had my guard up. And this is where the miracle, for me, is where I started seeing the miracle happen. As I walked in, went to my room, and went to another room where they had 3 tables where there was nothing. Walking around, pacing, nervous, went back to my room, couldn't sit down and calm down and watch TV. So I went back out walking and went back to that room again with the 3 tables. And in the middle table, there was a Life Recovery Bible. I picked up that Bible and went to my room and started reading. I don't know where to begin, so I looked towards the back and it had the 12 steps all laid out. And when I read the first passage of step 1, I started crying. I kept reading, and it just made me realize what I was throwing away, what I had just completely given up on, and that was myself, that was my family, that was any kind of love that I thought I deserved or wanted in my life. I had given up on it, thought there was no such thing, and came to realize that Christ was what I needed, and he was the one that was going to love me the way I felt I deserved to be loved, or I wanted to be loved. Christ opened up a whole new world for me. As soon as I surrendered my will and what I felt comfortable in, and said, God, like, show me. He started showing me things, and I started seeing things differently. Things were no longer, oh, woe is me. It was God's putting me through something to make me stronger. And it took time for me to see it that way. It didn't just happen overnight, but it did happen. Um, I've been going to meetings now for almost 2 years. I'm strongly involved in group. I help shed light on men and women that are suffering, that are still in pain, that are struggling, and I keep my phone open for anybody to call. I try not to deny anybody the light that's been given to me.